Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the versatility of the box squat. And I've said a number of times that over on Team Blaha, that's again me and my clients, that we live on box squats. And even when there have been phases where you guys have seen me do very few box squats before rotating them back in, doesn't mean my clients don't do them. And the same thing with the dynamic effort work. There have been phases where I didn't do it, but it doesn't mean a lot of my clients don't do it. But one of the beautiful things we have about the box squat is the sheer versatility of the movement. Okay, we could talk a lot about its rate of force production, and we should, because it is superior to other forms of squats. We could talk a lot about how it's easier to recover from, and therefore we can do more training volume to get a larger training response, and we should talk about that. But one of the things that is really of use with the box squat, and this is one reason it's such a valuable training tool and it's such a valuable exercise for creating different variations, is the fact that because we perfectly control the range of motion with our box heights, we can use different box heights for different applications. Meaning, if we want to do that with a normal squat, we can't. Right? Usually when you do a normal squat, you're either limited by your terminal range of motion at your hips at the bottom, which still has an inch or so of wiggle room, or you're stuck with feel. Do I feel like I'm at parallel? Do I feel like I'm ass to grass? Do I feel like whatever? And that can be ambiguous. It can be ambiguous. With a box, we can always build our box to the exact height that we need. In other words, if you know with a certain stance that you're exactly parallel on a 13-inch box, you can always build an 11, a 12, a 14, whatever you need to reach a specific depth for a training purpose. And you can do so consistently. And that's the difference. That's one of the reasons it becomes so valuable for things like speed work, because we can control the exact point at which we start the squat every single time from that dead stop. Okay, that gives us versatility in our training. It's the same thing when you're dealing with someone who has mobility problems. Now, granted, not everyone's going to have pads and things like I have, but what people do, a lot of my lifters do, is at their gyms, they stack plates to sit on. Okay, well, you can vary plates to get exact heights. Even if you're going on bumpers, a lot of times guys will put thinner plates in between to set their exact height. They still have an inch of variation. Even if they normally need 3 bumper plates to start with and then stack whatever on top of it, they can still use different thicknesses of plates to get their exact height. And if you have someone who struggles with range of motion at first on a squat, the box squat is extremely valuable for teaching them range of motion and building it. Because we can start with a box that's an inch above parallel, 2 inches above parallel. Anybody can comfortably sit back on that. Because that's usually our issue with squatting. You want to know one reason so many people end up with a really quad dominant squat and they can't learn to use their hips? Because they're afraid to sit back. That is the single biggest problem we see with people's squats. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't sit back, I drop straight down. Yeah, but you sit back. No one is truly sitting straight down on a correctly performed squat, even if that's what we feel like we're doing. We've learned to sit back, but we sit down into our back. So people fail to learn to initiate their hips and glutes, and they end up with weak hips and glutes. And we end up with muscle imbalances. These people get hurt when they play sports. People squat less weight than they should. Right? We develop muscle imbalances. Now, the same thing, even if we build those muscles up and they've learned to squat incorrectly, even building that musculature up with supplemental lifts, which is usually what we have to do, they still don't always get stronger because they haven't learned to use those muscles because of their bar path and their biomechanics. Right? If you take someone who's struggling to sit back and you put them on a little bit higher of a box, what happens? They all of a sudden magically can sit back. They all of a sudden magically can also get deeper when they sit back, because they have a box to touch and it's high enough up that they feel comfortable. And then you can bring that box down. You can take an inch off. And then take another inch off. We can get deep. This allows for improved range of motion. It allows for training progressive range of motion. And it allows us to do so consistently and perfectly in a way that we cannot always do with a normal back squat. It's a faster teaching tool. It's a more efficient teaching tool. And at the end of the day, when you're coaching people, we're better off using the fastest and most effective tools to get them there, right? We can come up with whatever nonsense we want. Well, they should just learn to just squat without the box and learn to sit back. Okay, but if I can shave 3 weeks off of that, I'm going to have my lifters stronger 3 weeks faster. That matters. Like when people are paying you to coach them, this matters. We want to do things efficiently. Box squats allow us to do this. They allow us to perfectly control range of motion every time with no ambiguity. This also matters for progression purposes, because what happens a lot of times, you'll have your guys, they'll PR a back squat and they're an inch higher. I see it all the time. I let it slide with my guys because I want them to feel good about their PRs. But even their 5 rep sets and stuff, they're squatting higher. It's not really a PR. And then you got to call them out on it when they want to keep adding weight, and then all of a sudden they're above parallel, you know. But they're not true PRs because they're short stroking the hardest part of the range of motion by an inch. The box squat, we don't do that. Now, guys will do that on a box squat too. They'll try to cheat. They'll slide their knees forward so that they can get their hips up higher, right? Because if you can get that shin far enough forward, the knee far enough forward, you shorten the moment arm of your shin. And then your knee can be lowered down so you don't have to squat as deep. And then you got to call guys on that too. That's the other thing. Let's come back over to that. This is why we video everything we do. Okay? This is why you have to video everything that you do. Otherwise, you can trick yourself, because the box might be at a constant height, but your knee position isn't. So just a little pro tip there for some of you doing that. You need to video your box squats. But we can control the range of motion. We also have that consistency so that when we do variations, people don't feel awkward. When you're used to box squatting and you can now perfectly control depth, what happens when we want to throw another thing in the wrench? We want to put on chains or bands or change bars. I have 3 different bars I can squat with. They all have a different feel. Box squat gives you a constant and allows you to perfectly control your depth for programming purposes, progression purposes, building our rate of force production. Also, because with the box squat, we can perfectly control that. What about when we want to rotate conjugate max lifts? Okay. We can have 3 different box heights, an inch apart. If you have 3 different box heights an inch apart, that's a different exercise. So if you have someone who has no bands, no chains, but we can do 3 different box heights, what do we got? We got 3 boxes. We've still got a back squat. We've got a pause squat. That's 5 things. Even if they have nothing but a barbell, no bands, no chains, the box height box squats gets us different lifts to max out on and to track and to PR on. For those of you who understand that system, you understand the value of having varied lifts to PR on. Okay, we need to be chasing PRs all the time. There's a lot of reasons for that. A big part of it being psychological. This gives us variation because it lets us have other lifts that we can PR on by nothing more than adjusting our box height. Because we can't control that perfectly with a back squat. We can say, oh, try to stop an inch above parallel or stop right at parallel. That doesn't work, especially when we're maxing out. Okay, when you're maxing out, basically you're stuck with squatting or pause squatting. That's about it. Because you're going to start short stroking it anyways as you get close to a max. You're not going to be able to say, well, I want to go 1 inch higher than my other one. You can't control that. You get higher as you add weight anyways, almost no matter what you do. This gives us versatility. Again, the box squat is one of the most versatile squatting tools that we have. And what people have to remember, they'll say, but does it carry over? Of course it carries over. You guys have watched me do it, and I've seen tons of my clients do it. I've seen plenty of my clients not perform a single back squat and do nothing but box squatting and hit a 30-pound PR the very first time they back squat again. It carries over. Anyone who tells you otherwise does not know how to coach or train this lift. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.